I'll use Conal Mirathorn throughout. My name is Conal Mirathorn. I gave 25 years to Cyber Defense Command, climbed to the rank of Lieutenant Colonel, and spent the better part of my life threading through invisible wars that never made the evening news. I dismantled extremist cells, sealed foreign espionage leaks, and sat in closed-door sessions with senators who stumbled over the jargon I breathed every day. Yet nothing in that arsenal readied me for the chill of standing on the curb, outside the home my grandfather hammered together with his own hands, and being stared at like an intruder. It was the tail end of September. I'd just climbed out of a rideshare, my separation papers still crisp in my duffel. The hush of the street pressed against my ribs, the porch bulb flickered overhead, the same weak amber that once meant, "Come on in." Now it felt like a security camera. My sister Beatrice answered the buzzer. No greeting, no concern, just a flat voice from the landing above. "I'm dialing 911. I thought she was pulling my leg until I saw her thumb already sliding across the screen. "You can't just materialize here," she barked. "This stopped being your address a long time ago, Mira. You vanished." "I just finished my final tour," I managed, the words snagging like burrs. "I thought maybe Mom would want to see me." "Mom doesn't," Beatrice said, face carved from granite. "Neither does Dad." Then she landed the blow that hurt worse than any shrapnel. "Your name's not in the will. It's not even on the title." 10 minutes later, a patrol car eased to the curb. The younger cop looked fresh out of the academy. The older one had a high and tight that screamed prior service. He paused when he saw the fruit salad on my chest. "Lieutenant Colonel Thorne." I gave a tight nod. Didn't help. "Records show this residence belongs to Beatrice Langford and Victor Thorne." The rookie read from his tablet. "No legal access listed for you, ma'am." I backed off as the iron gate clanged shut. In that metallic echo, I understood a new kind of combat had opened. This time, the enemy wore my last name, and I refused to yield. I didn't leave the block. I parked 3 streets over, collar up, windows fogging with my breath. The house, Grandpa's house, sat at the end of the Cul de sac like a postcard from another life. Its windows glowed honey, gold, pretending nothing had shifted. But everything had. The front yard, once riotous with Grandma's peonies, now hosted a crooked Siniar sale Pierre. I stared until the letters swam. I hadn't wept since Kandahar, since the night we lost Ramirez to an IED, since I unlocked my bare apartment and found a pension statement instead of a welcome mat. That night the dam broke. The place where I'd learned to tie knots, memorized signal flags on the back porch, and fallen asleep under plastic constellations was being bleached of my fingerprints, and nobody inside seemed to notice. I stayed in the sedan until the sky bruised purple. My dress blues, still knife creased from the ceremony, cut welts into my skin. A round first light, a silhouette crossed the living room drapes. Dad, still rail, thin, posture like he chaired hostile takeovers in his pajamas. He never glanced toward the street. I thumbed my phone, half hoping for a text from Mom, some crumb of recognition. One unread message, no sender ID, return to post. Nothing for you here. I let the screen go dark and watched dawn crawl over the rooftops. Retreat wasn't in my programming. By 9 I pushed into a corner diner off Maple Avenue. Lydia Grant was already camped in the rear booth, navy blazer sharp enough to slice bread. We'd been roommates freshman year before deployments scattered us across continents. When her gaze landed on me, something soft cracked across her face. Memory, maybe apology. She skipped pleasantries and spun her tablet around. "Figured you'd want the heads up." The listing stared back, 1420 Briar Ridge Road, Grandpa's exact coordinates, under something called Obsidian Vale LLC. "I never signed a thing," I said. She nodded once. "Exactly. A swipe revealed a transfer recorded 90 days prior. My printed name sat on the seller line in looping cursive that wasn't mine. Forged, she murmured. But we'll make it bleed daylight. And just like that, the fight had borders, ink, blood, and a house I intended to reclaim. We nursed burnt coffee while Lydia scrolled through county filings like a surgeon. She moved with the calm of someone who'd dissected bigger lies. I felt like a recruit learning alphabet soup all over again. This notary, she said, tapping a grainy stamp, lost his license last spring for cooking vehicle titles. Same flourish shows up on your quitclaim. My molars ground, so it wasn't spur of the moment. Hardly. Look. Another screen anew will probated 31 days after Grandpa's death, bequeathing everything to Dad and Beatrice. My stomach folded in on itself. They rewrote his dying wish. Or coursed it on his deathbed, Lydia said. We need the original instrument. I had fragments. Cloud backups, maybe a thumb drive of Grandpa reading bedtime stories on video. Lydia's eyes sparked. One mismatched pixel, one shaky witness, and we pry the lid off. I exhaled through my teeth. They looked me in the eye and told me I didn't belong. They don't know you, she answered, already drafting an emergency injunction. That dusk I cruised past the house again. The porch light was dead. The peonies had been yanked, roots and all. The Phi aid looked staged, like a model home waiting for strangers. They'd scrubbed the life out of it and missed only the echo in the sidewalk seams. They'd taken the deed, but I still had a pulse, and I meant to write my name back into the margins. Lydia rang at 7 the next morning, voice low. Pulled the utility draws. Someone's running a commercial-grade cooling unit in that basement. Constant load, no permits, no variance. My mind flashed to server farms. Black market refrigeration, worse. I need eyes inside. Thought you might. Watch your six, Mira. That night I ghosted the alley in dark civvies, micro camera pinned under my lapel. At 22:47 a figure materialized across the street, ball cap, hoodie, hands in pockets. He never looked my way, just tucked a folded scrap beneath my wiper and melted into the dark. Block letters, FEOU or Amaula, ALOI 92300, Solo. I was there in 12 minutes. The passage stank of diesel and wet cardboard. He leaned against a dumpster, face weathered, knuckles scarred. Knew your granddad, he said without preamble. Name's Caleb. Run the lift at Harlan's garage. Seen things don't sit right. I kept my stance loose. Define things. Your sister's been telling folks you're cracked from the war. PTSD, the works. I let it slide. What else? Pennell vans, midnight, no tags. Back in, unload crates, roll out before the dogs bark. Same tall guy every time, gloves, never talks. That's your brother-in-law, Derek. The knot in my gut cinched. Crates of what? Heavy. Locked. Power bill jumps like a data center after that. I palmed a pen recorder. I need inside. Caleb shook his head. These boys play for keeps. So do I. Midnight found me belly, crawling along chain link, camera rolling. 2 matte, black sprinters ghosted in, lights doused. 4 silhouettes. Derek's posture was unmistakable. Shoulders squared like he owned gravity. I counted heartbeats, slid the recorder into a rusted vent pipe and froze. Muffled voices leaked through. If the contracting officer sniffs around, cut the cord clean. The timber hit like incoming mortar. Dad, slow drawl, authority wrapped in bourbon. He wasn't complicit, he was quarterback. I eased back, pulse roaring in my ears, and vanished before the echo died. Dawn revealed the vent scrubbed clean. They'd clocked me. An hour later my burner buzzed, P-U-E-A M-H-E-S, Colel, Gute UR psych jacket. Curious what it says about impulse control. I forwarded the thread to Lydia and to Jonah Reed, a signals intel wizard I'd run ops with outside Stuttgart. Jonah replied before my coffee cooled, pulling strings. Build the lattice. Hold fast. My studio apartment morphed into a command post. 3 monitors, encrypted mesh, whiteboards, bleeding red yarn. Lydia looped in a digital coroner named Sloan who spoke in modulated calm. Within 6 hours we had arteries. Obsidian Veil fed Derek's freight forwarding shell, which drank from Beatrice's personal accounts, which gulped midnight wires from a defense logistics contract tagged sensitive compartmented storage. Jonah's voice crackled over speaker. Your father's John Hancock is on the warehouse lease. Authorizes climate-controlled space for perishable assets. The room tilted. He hadn't just looked away, he'd inked the order. Lydia filed at 088 Houdev. Temporary restraining order, asset freeze, subpoena blizzard. We served papers ourselves 2 mornings later. I wore blues because armor is armor. Lydia handed me the envelope like a loaded magazine. The Lexus and Derek's lifted Tacoma sat in the drive, dew still clinging. Beatrice opened the door mid-sentence on a phone call. Smile lacquered until recognition detonated. Derek loomed behind her, cologne thick as menace. Lydia's voice cut clean. You're served. All transfers, leases, and financial instruments tied to 1420 Briar Ridge are enjoined effective now. County recorder has been notified. Beatrice stared at the packet like it might combust. Derek's drawl oozed. You sure you want this smoke, Mira? I met him eye to eye. I've walked hotter corridors. He smirked. You're erratic. Docs'll prove it. Lydia stepped half a pace forward. 1 more syllable and we add witness tampering. The door slammed like a judge's gavel. In the car, Lydia exhaled. They'll lawyer up hard. I watched the house shrink in the mirror. Let them. Paper cuts bleed slow. Court smelled of lemon polish and dread. I took the stand ramrod straight, answered in clipped paragraphs. Forged signature. Shell cascade, midnight refrigeration, my father's recorded voice ordering a cover-up. The defense tried the mental health angle. My service psych evils came back cleaner than their consciences. Judge reviewed metadata, notary revocation, power logs, audio spectrogram. When she asked if I believed this was coordinated fraud, I said, they didn't just erase me from a will. They monetized my clearance and built a laundering pipeline on the foundation of my childhood home. Sentences fell like guillotines. Beatrice, 8 years, Derek 12, Victor 15. No outbursts, just the soft click of futures locking shut. Outside, a knot of veterans waited, some in faded utilities, one on a titanium leg, another with a service dog at heel. The oldest pressed a coin into my palms. Cyber Command challenge piece, edges worn smooth. You held the line, Cunnel. I closed my fist around it. We don't fade. Weeks later I stood in the quiet atrium of the National Military Archives. My name gleamed on the wall of valor, etched, permanent, mine. No forged document could sand it away. I walked out owning less brick and mortar than the day I arrived, but I carried the deed to my own story. Signed in daylight, witnessed by justice. And in the hush that followed, I stood taller than any house they ever tried to steal. I still drive past 1420 Briar Ridge sometimes. The sign is gone. New owners planted lavender along the walk. Grandma would approve. I don't stop. The war is over, the ground reclaimed, the record corrected. I keep the coin in my pocket, and the recorder's audio file on an encrypted drive labeled, for posterity. Some nights I play Dad's voice back, not for anger but for reminder silence is a choice, and I choose noise when truth demands it. Last month Beatrice sent a letter from federal prison, 3 pages of blame, 1 line of apology scrawled at the bottom like an afterthought. I read it once, folded it into the recycle bin, and went for a run. The pavement felt solid under my boots, the same rhythm I learned on Grandpa's driveway counting steps between mailbox and porch. Some inheritances can't be forged. Years slip by, but the house on Briar Ridge keeps its own calendar. Lavender gives way to black-eyed Susans, then to a low hedge of boxwood the new owners trim into perfect cubes. I pass on my way to the Veterans Clinic for quarterly checkups, slow the truck just enough to catch the scent of cut grass, then roll on. The coin from the old sergeant rides in the ashtray, edges now paper, thin. I never polish it. Some things are meant to wear honest. Jonah Reed calls every Veterans Day without fail. We trade updates the way other people swap recipes. He's running a private cyber firm out of Austin now, teaching former CGNT techs how to hunt ransomware the way we once hunted ghost accounts in Aleppo. Last year he sent me a care package, a bottle of mezcal and a thumb drive labeled loose ends. Inside were scrubbed metadata trails from the Obsidian Veil shell, final proof that the money loop had been severed at the source. The feds used it to indict two mid-level procurement officers who'd been skimming refrigerated storage contracts for years. I toasted the screen with a plastic cup of the mezcal and poured the rest over Grandpa's old workbench in the garage. The wood drank it like memory, Lydia Grant made partner. Her firm occupies the entire 12th floor of the glass tower downtown. She still wears the same navy blazer, but now it's tailored within an inch of its life. We meet for coffee on the first Thursday of every month. She brings case files, I bring stories from the support group I facilitate at the VFW. The kids, 22, 23, fresh out of boot or still in, sit in a circle and talk about hypervigilance, about the way a car backfiring can drop them to the floor. I tell them about the night I crouched behind a dumpster with a recorder in my fist, and realized the real enemy sometimes sleeps under the same roof you did. They listen the way I once listened to Grandpa explain how to splice wire with a pocket knife. When the hour ends, a few linger to ask about breathing drills or how to file a VA claim without losing their minds. Lydia watches from the doorway, eyes soft. She never bills me for the advice she slips in between sips of oat milk latte. Caleb still lifts engines at Harlan's garage. The place smells of solvent and burnt coffee, same as always. He keeps a folding chair out back for me. We drink root beer from glass bottles and watch traffic crawl past the open bay. One afternoon he slides a grease-stained envelope across the workbench. Inside is a Polaroid, the basement door at 1420, padlock freshly cut, crates gone. New owners hired me to haul junk, he says. Found this taped inside the fuse box. A single brass key on a red string. I turn it over in my palm. It's the spare Grandpa kept above the kitchen window for the storm cellar he swore would outlast us all. Caleb shrugs. Figured it still belongs to family. I hang it on the rearview mirror of the truck. It taps against the windshield whenever I hit a pothole, a tiny metronome counting miles I've put between then and now. Sloan, the voice, modulated forensics ghost, surfaces every blue moon. Last contact was a postcard from Reykjavik, a glacier under green aurora, no return address, one line in block letters. Still scrubbing the world clean. I pin it above my desk, next to the discharge certificate I finally framed. The glass reflects my face now, lines at the eyes, silver threading the temples. But the eyes themselves are steady. I run a small consulting outfit from a converted loft downtown. Nothing glamorous. I teach mid-sized companies how to lock their digital doors before the wolves sniff blood. The work pays the rent and keeps my clearance active. Some nights I dream in packet headers and wake up tasting copper. The dreams used to scare me. Now I log them like weather. The support group grows. We outgrow the VFW basement and move to the community center with the scuffed basketball court. One Thursday a new kid shows up, 19. Marine Corps tattoo fresh enough to smell the ink. He sits rigid, hands clamped between his knees. When it's his turn, he says his sister sold his Purple Heart on eBay while he was in Walter Reed. The room goes still. I slide the brass key across the table. Hold this, I tell him. It opens a storm cellar that outlasted a war and a family that tried to bury me. Whatever she took, it isn't the part that matters. He closes his fist around the metal like it's the first solid thing he's touched in months. After the meeting, he asks if he can keep it one more week. I tell him keep it until the wait feels like possibility instead of loss. Beatrice writes again on the 5th anniversary of sentencing. This time the envelope is thin, the stationary prison issue. She's enrolled in a restorative justice program, wants to facilitate a circle if I'll sit across from her. I read the letter twice, fold it into a paper crane the way Grandpa taught me on rainy Saturdays, and set it on the windowsill. The crane catches the breeze from the ceiling fan and spins slow, wings trembling. I watch it for a long time. Then I call Lydia. Tell her I'll think about it, I say. But the circle happens on my terms, in my city, with a moderator I choose. Lydia doesn't ask why. She just schedules the pre-meeting. Derek dies in custody, heart attack, they say, though the rumor mill insists it was the stress of testifying against bigger fish. The obituary runs 2 lines in the local paper. I read it over breakfast and feel nothing but the faint tug of an old scar. Dad follows 18 months later, liver finally cashing the check his lifestyle wrote decades ago. The prison chaplain calls to ask if I want the ashes. I tell him scatter them wherever the state buries the unclaimed. Some debts can't be settled with dirt. The restorative circle happens on a Tuesday in March. The room smells of lemon disinfectant and nervous sweat. Beatrice sits opposite me, hair gone gray at the temples, eyes the same flint they always were. The moderator, a soft-spoken army chaplain turned mediator, lays ground rules. No interruptions, no crosstalk, speak only in I statements. Beatrice goes first. Her voice shakes but doesn't break. I chose fear over family, she says. I chose money over memory. I chose to believe you were the threat instead of the mirror. She doesn't ask for forgiveness. The program forbids it. She asks for the chance to make one thing right. I listen until the silence stretches thin. Then I slide a photograph across the table. Grandpa on the porch the summer. He taught me to whistle with an acorn cap, both of us sunburned and grinning. On the back I've written the address of the local veterans hospice. They need volunteers to read to the memory care wing. I say, start there, every Tuesday. 6 months. Then we talk again. She nods once, tears cutting clean tracks through the powder on her cheeks. The chaplain closes the circle with a prayer. I don't join but don't interrupt. When it's over I walk out into spring air that smells like lilac and diesel. The sky is the color of dress blues at twilight. I breathe it in until my ribs stop aching. Summer brings a new ritual. Every solstice I load the truck with folding chairs, a cooler of root beer, and a portable speaker. Caleb, Jonah, Lydia, Sloan S. in the flesh for once, red hair, no modulator, and a rotating cast of support, group kids pile in. We drive to the overlook above the river where Grandpa used to take me to watch freight trains snake through the valley. We set the chairs in a loose circle, play old country songs low enough that the crickets keep singing, and tell war stories that end in punchlines instead of body counts. Someone always brings a cake with too much icing. Someone always cries. Someone always laughs so hard root beer comes out their nose. At midnight, we light sparklers and write our names in the dark, watching the light trail fade before it can burn us. The house on Briar Ridge sells again, this time to a young couple with a toddler and a golden retriever. I meet them by accident at the hardware store, paint samples in hand, arguing good-naturedly over shades of blue. The wife recognizes me from the trial coverage. Her eyes widen, then soften. We love the storm cellar, she says. Perfect for tornado season. I smile, the first genuine one in years. Treat her gentle, I tell them. She's held worse storms than weather. They name the dog Sergeant. I pretend the lump in my throat is sawdust. 10 years to the day after I stood on the curb in dress blues, the city unveils a memorial downtowns, a single slab of black granite etched with the names of local service members who came home and kept serving in quieter ways. Mine is there, flanked by the kid who lost his Purple Heart and now runs a peer hotline, by Caleb who teaches auto shop to at-risk teens, by Lydia who funds scholarships for first-gen college kids. The mayor gives a speech. I tune most of it out until she says, "They remind us that coming home is not the end of the mission." The crowd claps politely. I look at the kid, 29 now, steady, proud, and see the brass key glinting on a chain around his neck. He catches my eye and lifts 2 fingers in a small salute. I return it without thinking. That night I drive to the overlook alone. The river runs high with spring melt, moonlight fracturing across the current. I take the coin from my pocket, rub the worn crest between thumb and forefinger, and skip it across the water. It pings 4 times before it sinks. I don't need the weight anymore. The dark is quiet except for the hush of wind through new leaves and the low rumble of a distant train. I close my eyes and hear Grandpa's voice, steady as ever. Roots don't need dirt to remember where they're planted, kid. They just need to keep growing. I smile into the night, start the truck, and head home, wherever that word decides to settle next.